Hello, guys. Matthew here from Wechat, and today we have Irakli with us. And Irakli, can you introduce a little bit to our audience?
Hey Matthew, hello Wechat community. Yes, my name is Irakli. I am a founder of Calen.ai. Calen.ai is an appointment marketing assistant that converts human-like conversations into appointments with machine speed, consistency, and scalability. So that we are in chatbot market for more than 3 years, more than 4 years, I believe, since 2017. Yeah, and we just started as a chatbot agency, and now we turned it into a product. Yes, and our system is our approach is unique because you can't find really the type of product that we are. I will tell a little bit more during the presentation, but yeah, can't wait to share my ideas with the fellow chatbot builders.
Yeah. I also shared a quick demo with the solution they are built. Okay, it's a AI intelligence. The chat assistant. It actually can understand what you are saying, and even it's not a linear conversation, and it can even book you appointment and check if there is any conflict and suggest alternative date. So it's really powerful. And let's see, what do you think of the intelligent assistant looks like? Okay, you can share your perspective with us.
So can I share the screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen down below. There is a button that you can share the screen.
But yeah, okay, I'll try to now to actually uh, to share my screen. So I'm not sure that you can see
Yeah, we can
my.
see.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
The
we can see.
problem
Yeah.
is that I can't see you now. So all right, so I will just uh, start with AI assistant in marketing. Why we need AI assistants and the main in my opinion, the main reason why we need AI assistants and we use AI assistants is kind of fancy name of chatbots. You can call it chatbots or bots or voice bots. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The idea is behind that is a conversation. So conversation is the only way to build deep personal level connections. So as we humans, and if you want to create those connections with people, you have to talk to them and have like meaningful conversations. Without that, you can't really uh, build that. And brands now are trying to leverage conversations in their branding, and that's not easy because human conversation is very complex. And today I will not go into technical details, but rather I want to share our approach. So how we came to that system that allows us to build powerful AI systems that talks like human and converts like a machine. So this is a really great, combination of two stuff, and we have to understand that conversation, if we're talking about the chatbot, is just an interface. Is an interface to exchange values, and how to build this interface. It's not easy, and uh, the problem is, uh, and my question to the audience is, uh, why AI systems and chatbots are so bad today. So just give me your ideas about that. I'd like to see uh, feedback from audience, but I will tell my perspective on that. So, and that's not because of technology. In most cases, when you talk to a chatbot builder and ask them why chatbot is so bad, they will tell you technology is bad, NLP is bad, and nothing seems to be working, so it's complex, so you cannot really use it. But that's not the case. So the second reason I usually hear from chatbot builders is a lack of training data. So we need more data to train agents better, and then have that kind of complete chatbot that can answer any question. And the third thing I hear is that we don't have enough tools good enough to build AI chatbots. And but the real problem is that we don't really understand the underlying principle of human intelligence. So before trying to develop some AI, we have to understand how natural intelligence actually works. And I was really inspired with the Wright Brothers story. Wright Brothers built the first airplane, the first ever airplane. It was the first ever artificial flight in December 1903. And you can imagine that they built this with the technologies that were available back then in the end of 19th century. So it was built uh, uh, with fabric, wood, and internal combustion engine that you would not use even in a tractor today. So the technology was pretty bad at that time, and now nobody will even think about building an airplane using technology, 19th century technology. But they were able to do that. So, and the idea of the flight, of people that wanted to fly like since Icarus, since ancient Greece era, and but the main problem then was that even Leonardo da Vinci built that famous flying machine, uh, only scheme, but it was only a mock-up, but at least he was trying to do something with that. The main problem was that builders were trying to just copy design of birds. So um, copying design didn't work because a lot of people crashed during those, uh, flying attempts. So it wasn't really successful. So what they did, what Wright Brothers did, they broke down the idea of flying machine into three tasks. So the first task was to lift the object, which is heavier than air, into the air. The second one was to control the flying machine in the air. And the third task was to move uh, the airplane towards the destination. So they need some kind of engine to do that. So, and they just broke down this into those three uh, subtasks and started to, develop step by step. So what they did, they developed an wind tunnel, small wind tunnel, to find the best possible curvature of the wing to be able to lift the object in the air. So, and after 2 years of experiment, they finally created a wing that was able to lift the airplane in the air. The second one is to control the uh, the airplane. And so what they did, they just connected to human intelligence. So human was actually controlling the airplane. So they were able to give it a direction, and they developed the control mechanism of the airplane. And the third one is they developed a propeller because propellers that were used in, for example, in ships or on it didn't work for the air, so they had to develop a special propeller to move in the air. And they used the internal combustion engine that was available at that time. So this was the kind of idea that we used to create our AI system. So as a result, they built something that was able to provide sustainable flight, but it didn't really look like a bird. As you can see, it doesn't look like a bird at all. But it was able to leverage the same principles that the birds used naturally to move in the air. So it used the same aerodynamic principles, but it's not the same as the bird. And this is very important to understand that if you want to build something that is able to mimic human conversation, you have to kind of recreate the process, but not the design, but process. So how can we do? So how can we actually break down the natural intelligence into uh, this task into feasible subtasks? So we've been thinking about that, and first of all, we have to understand what actually intelligence means. And it's difficult to find anything um, concrete about human intelligence. Uh, and I wasn't really able to find any good explanation of what intelligence is. The best thing I found is what Charles Darwin's kind of definition that intelligence is the ability to adopt. So this is kind of philosophical definition, but I have my own definition and I have my own approach to understanding what the human intelligence is, and I want to illustrate my approach with a story. So in 1989, Andrea got a match against Boris Becker. So it was a US Open semifinal, and before that match, Boris Becker defeated Agassi 3 times in a row. So Boris Becker's serve was such a powerful serve, more than 200 kilometers per hour. So it was very fast, very powerful, and nobody could do anything against it. So what Agassi did is that his trainer, they started studying Boris Becker's serving routine. So they were looking at the videos of how he serves, and then they find very interesting, very interesting detail. So while serving, Andrea Agassi was touching with, he had kind of tick with his tongue. He was touching the lip with his tongue right before serving. So, and they found out that interesting detail, and they started researching if that actually means anything. So, the first thing what they did, they found this this data, this particular characteristic of Boris Becker, and then what they did, they start trying to interpret this data. So, what if that means anything? So, and they found out that when Boris Becker was touching with his tongue the center of his lip, he was serving either in the middle of the court or to the body. But if he was touching the left corner of his mouth, it means that he was planning to serve wide. And that was so consistent. He was doing it so consistently that Agassi was able to predict when and where Boris Becker will be serving. So, and after, you know, and of course, during the match, he was able to adapt and to move towards the goal, and because he already knew where Boris Becker would be serving, so he was able to respond accordingly. So, and the interesting thing is that Agassi was telling that the hardest part wasn't to actually respond accordingly. The hardest part was to not use this knowledge during almost the whole match, but use this very um, decisive moments of the match. And because he didn't want Boris Becker to know that he knows what he's going to do. So, and why this story has to do anything with the human communication? So, uh, there are four stages of human communication, similar, like I told with Agassi. So the first is absorbing data. You have to be able to hear the language. So you have to be able to absorb data. We are talking about chatbots. The same works with the voice. You have to be able to actually hear what people say. This is the very first step. And this is very important. I mean, because with the chatbots, for example, most chatbots that are rule-based and built on flows, you can't really hear. You are They are not really sometimes designed in a way that they should hear what the user wants. They're just providing the option, so they can't really hear. Other problem is that some of them can hear, but for example, if someone uses Dialogflow's built-in system is Dialogflow ES built-in dialog management system, which is pretty poor, and for example, if you use either slot filling or follow-up intent, it means that you are only able to hear uh, just what you want to hear from them, not everything. So, and this is when you just uh, uh, limit yourself, limit yourself with, by using this technology in hearing others, in hearing customers. So, as you mentioned, Matthew, so we don't do that. So we can hear anything that the user say. Of course, I will talk later about technology, but this is the very first step: is to absorb the maximum data that is available there that the user is ready to share with you. So if you are able to do that, this is a good start. So the next step is to interpret. So because the same phrase, the same word can mean different things depending on context. So what is context? Context is a knowledge that you have in common with their counterpart. So, for example, if user says something to you like, "Okay, I want to book an appointment for tomorrow," so the next question will not be. So the next step will not be asking them, "Okay, when do you want to book an appointment?" So the next question will be, "What time tomorrow? What time do you prefer to have your appointment tomorrow?" Right. So you are kind of interpreting. You're understanding what the user has shared with you. So, and the second is very important, to store and understand all the data that users have shared with you before. And this is helps with interpreting. Interpreting also is a very important part because depending on how you interpret, it will affect the whole, I mean, conversation and the person. So the third part is to predict the next step. So, and this is like has everything to do with the strategy. With the strategy that is behind the bot. For example, our bot is a appointment marketing assistant. So actually, it's obvious that our goal is to book an appointment, to make an appointment, and we know that, for example, how we use prediction. For example, if someone says, "Okay, I want to book an appointment," we are not asking them what time and when do you want to book an appointment, because we know that 70% of people, they don't know when they want exactly. So that's why we know. So they say something, what do you have? When do you have the openings? Something like that. To skip that part, we are just proactively offering uh, different options that we have available already. So this is a kind of prediction because we know we want to move forward, we want to move towards the appointment. So the system is completely built on the prediction of the next step. And the fourth part is the response. So a response is always about moving conversation forward because the goal-based, the bots that are built to reach actual goals, they have to respond in a way that moves conversation forward. So let's now discuss uh, technology and skills. So what do you need to build that type of bot? If there are any questions, I'll be happy because I don't see any questions there. So I'll be happy to answer them. If you have any questions, so how
Not
can
yet. I will let you know if we got any questions. I will stop you there, and we will answer those questions.
okay,
Yeah.
can I share part of the screen, not the whole screen? Is it possible to do that?
Um.
Because
I think you can try to share application.
window. Okay, yes, I see. I see. I
Yeah,
see.
window or
So
application.
yeah, so it's much better now. So can you see
Oh,
my
yeah.
screen?
Now it's better. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, finally I can see you and everything. All right. So to hear the language, we need the NLP system, right? So it can be Dialogflow or any other NLP processor. We use mostly not mostly. We use actually Dialogflow for building our bots. There are some reasons. If you have questions, I can answer why we use that. So and also to make it work, to make natural language processor work, you need AI trainer. So you need someone who will provide training phrases and then control. So how an NLP processor works, I will just explain it in a few words. So NLP processor works in a very simple way. So you can kind of add intents. Intents are user requests. So you know, for example, that your business has like typical 50 requests, 50 questions that your users ask about your business. So you just take those 50 questions, and because they ask those questions in different ways, you just add that, I don't know, like 10, 15, 20, 20 phrases. So different ways of asking this same question. And then you are training, you just press training button, and what NLP and what NLP does is it builds mathematical model of this question. So actually it cannot understand um, the meaning of the phrase, but it builds mathematical model. So when the 21st phrase comes into a system that has a similar mathematical model that other 20 phrases have, but it's not similar to it, you will understand, okay, this means this, and we'll go to this question. So that's sometimes there are errors. So sometimes they can be, you know, you cannot understand correctly, and there are errors. So AI trainer has to correct or fix all these errors, and yeah, and then once you have like, for example, for appointment, we have like 1,500 training phrases. So and uh, just we have like 1,500, and it's pretty accurate because the model, the mathematical model of this intent is very well calculated. So this is the first part. The second part is uh, custom logic. So custom logic, I mean uh, interpretation. So how we interpret the certain utterance from the user depends on where the user is in his journey. So we have to understand what questions has been asked before, what request have came, what the status of this user is, and then respond accordingly. So this is about developing a custom logic for applying shared data to utterance. So this is a very difficult part, creating custom logic, and in most cases to do that, we sit down and just asking each other the question. So how can we approach to this question in this context, in this context, in this context? And we're trying to recreate that in our custom logic. For that, we use actually Integromat or Dialogflow CX. Dialogflow CX has its own dialog management system, and it's not really the best dialog management system there, but it's better than others at the moment. So that's why we use it. So the third part is prediction. So to predict the next step, we this is more about conversation strategies, and this is more about understanding the customer journey. So, and this is about also seeing the data from all the users that have already passed, because there are different paths that they can take from unknown user to an appointment. So when you have all these paths, you know what would be the next optimal stage to move the conversation. So we use that data to for journey mapping, and conversation strategist is in charge for that. And predicting the next step is because when we are talking to each other, we are really trying to predict what the next step, what the other part will say next, to be ready and to respond accordingly. And the response. The response is a very important part, because actually what the users see, they don't see all these previous three stages. They see only responses. And if your responses are bad, even if you can hear, interpret well, predict it, but if your responses are not according to conversation design principles, all these previous stages, they don't matter. So the hardest part and the most important part is a conversation design. So understanding the psychology of the conversation and understanding the context of the conversation and giving responses that are short, sweet, and to the point. So that's kind of core part of our product, because we're spending most of our time on conversation design. However, other parts are very important as well. But we know that without this part, it will not be relevant or will not work. So, and that includes also our analytics and A/B testing and so on. So yeah, so that's what I actually wanted to tell you about AI assistant and how to use them in marketing. I just showed you some of our approaches, and uh, also you can go to Calen.ai/chat. And by the way, we plan to develop an integration with Wechat actually, and I'm really happy with the platform, and I'm really happy to announce that Wechat is the very first platform that we plan to integrate with. So if you're interested, you can go to Calen.ai/chat and apply as an early adopter, so you will get special price. And uh, you can, by the way, try how it works. We just, move that Family Doctor's AI assistant and we built it as a chatbot. So you can try to chat with a doctor's AI assistant, and any business can build its own AI assistant. It's pretty easy. Just fill the form, and that's it. So fill the form, answer the questions, and it takes like 10 minutes, and you are good to go. It will work like within 24 hours. We need to review the submission, and then we'll make your AI system live. So that's pretty easy. So yeah, pretty excited to have that, and visit Kalen AI chat and try how Doctor's AI assistant works. And yeah, if you have any questions, we have form for the feedback. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, and as well as I'll be answering to any questions right now. Matthew, probably you have some questions.
Yeah. I have a question. Is you are using Dialogflow CX, right?
We are using Dialogflow CX for voice only,
So
because
what's the
Dialogflow CX.
difference? I think what's the difference between Dialogflow CX and the EX? They are two two different versions, right?
Yes, Dialogflow ES is just an NLP processor. So you use it to detect intents and entities. Dialogflow CX you use for dialogue management as well, because you can build the flows there. You can build your custom logic in the Dialogflow CX, and it's quite good. I mean, we for chatbots we use ES because Dialogflow CX has the limit of 20 minutes for the context. After that, it just loses the context. With chatbot, is just not relevant because the user can respond like in 30 minutes or in 1 hour, and then the because the CX lost the context, so the response will be completely irrelevant. And that's why we don't use CX for chatbots. The idea is that ES is chatbots. 100% of development we do outside of Dialogflow. With CX, 80% of dialogue management we do inside Dialogflow CX. And we do that because it's fast. I mean, um, speed is the critical when you're building the voice application. But for chatbot, the user can wait like 5-10 seconds. Uh, they see that you are typing, so and they can wait 10 seconds easily before you respond. But with the voice, nobody will wait 10 seconds after you ask the question, and then waiting 10 seconds is just ridiculous. So that's why we use CX for voice application, but we don't use it for chat because there are some limits that site that CX has. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so
So
yeah,
another
and we are pretty yeah.
yeah, another question I have is, for example, when you detect the intent, right? You have to set up some threshold. If you are if whether it's in Dialogflow or in somewhere at your backend, just to detect, okay, I do not understand what the user is saying, and then you will send the user to the fallback, right? Just a default reply. So how can you define, find the right balance for this threshold value?
So honestly, I'm not really good in this technical part. Threshold value, we usually use basic like defaults for these
Default.
values. Yes, because when you're trying to kind of change anything, that everything stops working. So you need for this fine tuning, you need to spend 2 weeks, which we tried sometimes and it didn't work. So we still are using default settings
Okay.
in any of the dialog flow parts. What is critical there is that fallback has to be contextual. So if you have good fallbacks, for example, if you try to go to this page, Calen.ai chat, and chat with a doctor, and for example, you are saying something, okay, I want to have an appointment on Tuesday at lunchtime, and then chatbot will tell you, okay, will tell you something like, okay, I have availability on 12 p.m., 1 p.m., and 2 p.m., which is lunchtime. And then you say something like, boom, blah, blah, blah. You say, sorry, what time do you want to book your appointment? So this is a fallback, but it's contextual because we know that the user is in the scene when we are trying to get appointment time. So, and we will ask fallback questions, not something like, sorry, what that means. No, we will say something like, what time do you want to book your appointment for? So, and these contextual fallbacks, they work much better than just basic fallback because, um, yeah, and the fallback is, by the way, very important part, the most important part, and we pay a lot of attention for that. And because it's the idea is that building a voice application is easier than a good chatbot because when you are talking, you have only like your, for example, when I'm speaking to you, Matthew, you have only like milliseconds to understand what I'm saying. So, and therefore, there are much more errors in conversations. You just cannot, sometimes you cannot even understand that there are errors because humans are really good at adapting to each other. So we are like listening and trying to understand what we are talking. We're trying to adapt to each other. And when some errors occur, there is no big deal during the voice conversation. For example, if you said something and I'm asking, sorry, Matthew, what did you say? You just rephrase this, and this is normal. But when you sending me a message in Messenger, and I'm asking something, sorry, what did you say? So this will sound ridiculous because I can just read what you just said, and that's it. So we have like we are much more forgiving during the voice conversation, forgiving. So the user will forgive you more when he's not understood with the voice communication rather than during the chat. So building a good chatbot is much more difficult. And that's why we are now working with the GPT-3 to actually cover some fallbacks because what we need to do is to respond because sometimes user can say pretty relevant things and chatbot still is not able to understand because it's not possible to understand everything, right? So and that's why when you have GPT-3 that is able to give relevant response, just a part of the response, because how dialogue management work is that uh, uh, bot asks the question, user asks the question. So the question asked by user has to be responded all the time. If you can't respond to user's question, like with slot filling, you can't respond to user's question. User can ask anything, but you can't respond because you are limited to that slots that you have to fill. So yeah, and that's why we are not just close my. So yeah, that's why we are started experimenting with GPT-3 tools because GPT-3 is good really responding relevantly to the question that you can understand, but it's not good at driving your user to the goal because GPT-3 can't understand it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what we are building now, and we'll be able to like in 1 month to
Uh,
actually
yes. I have another question. For
sure.
example, your solution now is, for example, is focused on the booked appointment, right? So
Yeah.
can the solution have two different goals, or it has to be one goal focused, like the one goal driven? It has to be book appointment, until that goal is fulfilled. The whole conversation is geared to book appointment. Can it have separate goals? For example, book appointment and another, totally different goal.
Sign up, for example. Sign
Yeah,
up.
for example, the sign ups just to get the, leads
Okay.
informations or something like that.
Yes, it's possible. It's possible to do. We are not doing that because it makes too much. It's too much complex.
Okay.
So we don't want to go because we had the like a multi mission goal, multi mission bot, but it's very. I mean, you need a very good dialogue management to have the switches between missions. How do you go from this mission to this mission? What are the triggers and so on and so forth? So this is kind of very difficult. And there is actually no need for that because for businesses, they have like, usually they have one goal. For example, e-commerce, it's uh, or SaaS is a sign up, e-commerce is a sale, and services mostly are
Ultimate
appointments.
goal.
So
It has to be one
yeah,
very important ultimate goal for each business. So you just focus on that goal.
every bot has to have one ultimate goal. So
Yeah.
in this case, it will be if you focus on one goal, because even the appointment. So when we started with appointment bots back in uh, 2018, we decided to focus on appointments only. So this is very complex. When you go into details, it's not that easy. You can think that appointment is very easy. Date time and that's it, right? like email and phone, and that's it. Appointment is done. But even there are different types of appointments, and for example, group appointments. We can't do group appointments, right? Because it's a different logic there. Or for example, we don't yet do appointments that are conducted in the client's place, because we have to prompt for the address there, and we don't have that yet, because it's you just add one more task, and it's like when you have 200 intents, it's not easy. So, and all the intents, by the way, are global. So because we want to hear everything that we can understand. For example, we can't understand everything, but there are some we think that in case in context of the business conversation, like 95% of questions are about this. So we cover all these topics of the conversation, and we are able to hear everything, because with a conversational interface, and what's the big difference, and what is the main complexity of building conversational interfaces, is that you don't know what is user going to say, because with a graphic user interface, you have user pretty much limited, so you can press this, that, or this. That's it. So right, and you
Yeah,
pretty much know what to do when user does this. But with the conversational interface, user is not limited to anything. User can say anything. So
yeah,
you have to be ready for that,
yeah.
and that's why I'm saying the fallback is the
Okay.
very important.
Okay. Last question. For example, the chatbot you built that is for GP, right? So the GP is in the healthcare industry. Does that requires the service you provide to be HIPAA compliance in US and all that? Is there any
Uh,
requirement for the custom data and all that?
Yes, there are requirements. So you cannot store. You if you store sensitive data, like related to health, to users' health, you have to comply with this rules, how you store them, the security, and all this part. Because we don't store that, we are completely HIPAA compliant, and because we don't store that, so we don't have this anywhere on our servers. So there can be any leaks, or nobody can sell it.
Okay.
And that's how we comply with HIPAA.
Okay. Good. Good. So I think we can expect the UChat integrations with your solutions, and I think in the future we will bring your solutions to all the UChat customers so that they can build easily the AI assistant, just to get this appointment book fast and easy, right?
Exactly. So we have kind of two things, right? First is the voice, and the second is chat.
Yeah.
So integrating chat seems to be easier. So we can start with that, but we want to provide this multimodal experience. And because we have one backend, so
Yeah.
we will be able to identify the same user that is communicating using different channels. So it's truly omni-channel and multimodal. For example, if the user book an appointment over the phone, and then book an appointment over the Facebook Messenger, provided to the phone as a confirmation for the appointment, then called back to the business, the
Yeah.
system will identify that this user has already booked an appointment. So,
Yeah.
and will treat the user accordingly. So, and the same goes to all the channels that we provide. And we provide all the channels,
Yeah.
because there is no difference. Conversational experience is a bit different in voice, a bit different.
Yeah.
But for other channels, it's completely similar.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Okay, I think that's all for today, and really appreciate your time. And yeah, I think we will bring more solutions like this to the UChat community. Thank you, Irakli, and see you
Uh,
next time in our live.
Thank you, Matthew. It was a pleasure to share our to be able to talk about Calen.ai with the Wechat community, and hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.